The first time we spoke, you mentioned that Gen AI is going to be a game changer in ESM, right? Could you unpack that? What's not going to change despite AI or despite some other technology?
We have to be able to design good processes. That's not going to go away. AI brings great capabilities, but having good business acumen, understanding the business of the business, understanding how people, process, technology can help augment or deliver the value or the results that the organization is looking for, that's not going to change.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on going from ITSM to ESM in an AI powered world. Today, we have with us an IT leader who's helped multiple IT teams do this exact thing, Doug Tedder. Hey, hi, Doug.
Good morning. How are you, Sajeesh?
Great. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for agreeing to do this. I'm really excited to pick your brain and have you share your insights with the community.
Looking forward to it.
Super. I'm sure most of you know Doug already. For those of you who don't, Doug is the principal at Tedder Consulting LLC. It's a service management and IT governance consultancy. Doug is a respected industry leader and an expert in navigating interactions across levels, right? From senior leadership to frontline practitioners. And some of you who know Doug might not even know that he was listed among HDI's top 25 thought leaders in technical and service management in 2018, 2020, and 2023. Whoa, that's great, Doug. Uh, we Let's dive right into the deep end of the session, and there's a lot of dictionary definition of ESM floating around. If you Google ESM, you get a bunch of stuff from someone who's been there, done that, and like implemented and helped other teams implement ESM. What exactly is ESM for you?
Sajeesh, you're absolutely right. You can Google this and get 10 different definitions. And, most of them, in my opinion, don't quite hit the mark. How I define enterprise service management is it's an organizational capability for holistically delivering business value and business results based upon shared processes, increased collaboration, improved communications, and the appropriate technology. And the thing that makes enterprise service management is it leverages the capabilities and talents of the entire organization, not just a single department within the organization. So I think that's one of the key differentiators that makes enterprise service management what it is.
Got it. And seeing that you've helped teams implement ESM and you've come across multiple organizations at different levels of maturity, right, with respect to their ITSM to ESM journey. What are some of the most common misconceptions or mistakes that you see people make a lot?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, in some cases, there's an oversimplification of what it means to have enterprise service management. Some of the things that I've seen or misconceptions that I've encountered is, enterprise service management is just something that stands up an enterprise service desk. Okay, not a bad place to start, but the problem with that oftentimes is it's what I would call a catch and release organization. They really haven't been enabled to interact with the various departments and various service providers within an organization. And so all they do are they become message takers and they send out tickets to various parts of the organization. And I characterize that not as enterprise service management, but enterprise silo management. We still are in silos, right? And so that's one of the problems that I often see. The second problem, with all due respect, there's lots of good technology solutions that Atomicwork being one of them, that can help an organization truly achieve benefit with enterprise service management. But it's not about implementing a tool. Tools are enablers, but it's not the first place that you need to start an ESM adoption. One of the biggest things that I see is that the organization really doesn't set goals and objectives for what they want to achieve with enterprise service management, right? It's not plug and play. It really takes some time and planning. And how does the organization know that it's being successful with enterprise service management? That oftentimes gets skipped, that planning step or that establishing goals and objectives. And then I guess the last thing I would share, coming from an IT service management person, this kind of pains me to say it, but I see so many definitions that enterprise service management is just simply extending IT service management across the organization. Not true, right? IT service management in many cases, in most cases, in my experience, it is less about the rest of the organization. It's more about IT. And don't mistake what I'm saying. That's not a bad thing. We have to have defined procedures and processes and how to interact with our end users. Sorry, looks like my network is bouncing a little bit here. So hopefully, IT in many cases, what I was saying is that many cases, IT service management falls a little bit short. It deals solely focused on the end user, and even worse, it's internally focused on IT, not on delivery and supportive services. And so the concepts might be valid from a pure service management perspective, but in many cases, it's not just, okay, we're just going to send incident management out to the rest of the organization, or we're going to redo service requests out to the rest of the organization. It has to take an enterprise perspective.
Super. That's really great. And in simple terms, you have some sort of a goal in mind so that you're building towards it, rather than starting from IT and going inside out. Basically, taken outside and holistic approach where you're looking at the entire business and then trying to see what are you looking to achieve, right?
Yeah, Sajeesh, you're absolutely right, and I couldn't have said it better. The outside in approach. We've long talked about outside in, but that is truly a key to success. Is taking that outside in approach. Especially, we should have been doing it with ITSM, but especially with enterprise service management, it is really incumbent that we take an outside in approach.
Super. And some of the folks who have joined us today are probably embarking on the ESM journey. What are some of the challenges that they should watch out for?
Well, first and foremost, keep in mind that this is enterprise service management, and much like some of the ITSM implementations I've been involved in, they didn't make a good business case for that, and it was very internally focused. You can't get away with that with enterprise service management. So we've got to make for success. We have to have a good business case. We have to have buy-in from the C-suite, because we're going to involve all parts of the organization. Maybe not all at once, but over time. If we're really going to have success with enterprise service management, we're going to involve all parts of the organization. So one of the challenges is building that business case and getting the C-suite to buy in to what we are trying to do from an enterprise perspective. The second issue that I see or have encountered, workflows, defined processes, quite frankly, when you go outside of IT, often don't exist. It's hand me down. It's word of mouth. It's learning from the experienced person in the department. And again, great that we have that knowledge out there. But if we're truly going to get the impact from an effective adoption of enterprise service management, we've got to be able to understand how work flows from end to end. So one of my favorite things to say about enterprise service management is it's a team sport. It involves everyone. It's not just one department leading the charge. It has to involve everyone if it's going to be successful.
Absolutely. And in case you'd also like to get the backing and funding and resources from in a continued manner. And it's better to get the C-suite involved right off the bat, and and work towards a business goal. Tying back to your previous point. Uh, to be able to make this a holistic success story within the organization.
Yeah, enterprise service management, it's something that we've been talking about for, gosh, 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
And some organizations have had some success, absolutely. But to your point, right, we've got to have funding, we've got to have the backing, we've got to have leadership, we've got to have a vision from a business perspective, because this is, I like to call it a change in lifestyle. It's not a one and done kind of implementation. It's going to take not only ongoing funding, but other resource commitments like staffing and continual improvement and a lot of other things. And it's going to involve the entire organization. And so it's very important to get that backing, build that business case, revisit that business case, because the organization that we often start with in enterprise service management adoption isn't the same organization 2-3 years later. Things have changed. We got to continue to make keep our C-suite engaged with that and help navigate those changes, and how ESM can help with that and really make it about the business.
Got it. My next question is something that perhaps most of our viewers have been waiting for. And the first time we spoke, you mentioned that Gen AI is going to be a game changer in ESM, right? Could you unpack that and explain what did you mean by that?
One of the things that I've just been so happy to see in our industry is the introduction of AI capabilities within service management, right? I think that has been a long-standing challenge. I don't want to call it obstacle, but it's been a challenge. How do we actually realize some of the benefits and value that we should be getting from service management? And so as I've started to see the introduction of AI capabilities and overall and Gen AI specifically, I have to tell you, I get excited about it. And I see Gen AI as being one of those game changers, like you said. First, the thing that I see that is going to help us mostly, or the thing that Gen AI is really going to bring to the table here, is it's really going to augment what we do as people within service management, right? It's not to replace us, right? But it's going to allow us or give us that capability to do things in a more enhanced way. So, for example, suggesting knowledge articles when we're interacting, right? Providing options. These are the kinds of things that we could do. What do you think about this? This is the thing that Gen AI is going to bring to us. So I think that's one of the things. It's, AI is going to free us up from doing the silly things like password reset, for crying out loud, right? Should be able to do that. Gen AI takes us to another level. Okay, what are we going to do with this extra time? How about provide additional value? How about work smarter? And so that's one of the things. So secondly, one of the ongoing challenges for every organization is, how do I capture knowledge as it's happening, right? And there's some great methodologies for doing that. A lot of people have dedicated a lot of time. A lot of organizations have invested in significant resources in trying to manage its knowledge. Knowledge, it's kind of the understatement of the year, right? As we become more and more a digital economy and digital organizations, knowledge is key to success. And knowledge is happening everywhere, right? It's happening in Slack channels. It's happening as a result of interacting with end users. It's happening in meetings. It's happening on phone calls. And there's all of this knowledge that we aren't tapping into. And I see Gen AI as a way to start to not only capture that knowledge, but make sense of it. That's the key. And I think that's the thing that, one of the game changers that Gen AI brings to the table. And then last but certainly not least, at the end of the day, it's all about people, right? I'm a big advocate for human-centered design. I'm a big advocate for, keeping the person, the people, the human in the center of everything that we do, because at the end of the day, that's why we're interacting with technology. We're trying to make people successful. One of the things that we've always fallen short on, though, from a service management perspective, is that we really haven't had the capability to personalize that interaction. We put people into a bucket or a category, and we listen for keywords for how to help them. Think about what would happen with Gen AI involved in that, and make this a very, I'm going to use the term, hyper personalized, interaction, right? While I have a role to play within an organization, and as that role, I need certain capabilities, certain accesses, certain kinds of access to data, those kind of things. But what if we could take that to the next level? And because I am Doug Tedder, and I'm working on these things, and I'm involved in those kind of projects. Gen AI can help us, make this a very hyper personalized kind of environment, and yet still make sure that we're staying inside of standards and complying with regulation and all those kind of things. So Gen AI is a huge game changer, not only for service management, but as we start to roll this across the enterprise.
Absolutely, and I love the point that you made about people, and making it a people first approach, and the technology should be there to serve the people, right? And if we are able to customize and personalize the conversations and the help that someone gets based on their context, or even if they report an issue with an asset, the context and the incident history of the asset taken into account. Not super easy for a human agent to do, but an AI assistant or agentic AI, like you mentioned, password reset. Uh, there's Gen AI and there's also agentic AI that could perform some tasks and use certain tools, perhaps integrate with your HRMS or with Okta or some other IDP, and help you perform some tasks as an end user without having to wait for an agent, a human agent, to be available, right?
Yeah.
Things like maybe asking for a time off request or asking for access. Password resets is perhaps the most common, but there are a lot of use cases that you could think about, and we have spoken about how Gen AI is going to be a game changer and might change the landscape of enterprise service management. But as the great Jeff Bezos says, always ask yourself, what is not going to change, right? Like essentially, when you're building a strategy, you need to have certain first principles in mind that are always going to be true. So help us understand what's not going to change despite AI or despite some other technology coming in fundamentally.
Yeah, Sajeesh, I think that's a great question, and it's a concern that I hear about pretty, quite often, right? We're going to be replaced by machines. No, the silly, mundane, tedious work that machines are infinitely capable of doing better than we can as humans is going to take that burden off of our shoulders, right? And it allows us to become more human. I wrote a blog about this, recently. The more AI we become, the more human we need to be, and so I think that allows us to become much more human in our interactions. But to your point, and that's something that doesn't change, right? We still need to be people focused. We still need to have empathy. We still need to be able to understand and create those good emotional connections when we interact with each other. That's not going to change. And AI is not there yet. I can't see AI being so empathetic yet. Maybe 100 years from now, maybe next week. What do I know? But AI is not going to be empathetic, right? For some time. But and I get it, right? I'm an IT geek from way back. I get technology, and I get the allure of getting the latest and greatest. But it's not about the technology. It's really about, again, another thing that doesn't change. What outcome do we want to drive? How is this valuable to our organization? And we have to get crisp on it. Just because it works for another organization doesn't mean it's going to work for us. So we still have to practice critical thinking, and we have to ask the right questions. So that doesn't change. The need for good process design. As good as AI capabilities are coming out of the box, they don't know your processes. They don't know how work flows through your organization. And yeah, sure, we all organizations have their common challenges. The one that we seem to continue to struggle with is, how do we onboard a new employee? Follow closely about, how do we offboard an employee, right? And we're still trying to solve those. But how you do it in your organization is going to be a little bit different than another person needs to do it. So we have to be able to design good processes. That's not going to go away. Once we do that, then AI can certainly enhance or augment our performance. And then I guess the last thing I would share with the audience is, there's no replacing understanding the business of the business. Again, AI brings great capabilities, but having good business acumen, understanding the business of the business, understanding how people, process, technology can help augment or deliver the value and the results that the organization is looking for, that's not going to change. We have better capabilities for doing those things if we do those things right, and it all starts with that basic understanding of the business of the business.
I love the last point that you made, Doug. And for everyone who's listening, who's maybe starting out in service management and eventually aspiring to become a CIO or become a VP of IT, or basically get into the leadership uh, within their organization or somewhere outside, business acumen is something that you would need to learn over time. So like technology is, at the end of the day, a means to an end, right? Today
Yeah.
AI is the cutting edge. Tomorrow there would be something else. You need to stay updated with that as well. There's no way around that, and that's non-negotiable. But in order to uh, become, let's say, a CIO, right? You need to think like a CIO, right? You need to start thinking strategically. And what do? They have counterparts across the business, like, let's say, the CMO, across finance, the CFO, CHRO. They need to have a holistic understanding of how they can leverage technology to help their counterparts and their teams, and at the end of the day, the business succeed. So that was brilliant. I love that you brought that up. uh, so Doug, I think in 5 minutes from now we can open it up, for Q&A. And anyone listening, please type in your questions below so that we can help address it. My last question to you, Doug, is, if you were to summarize, all the tips for doing ESM right, based on all the organizations you've consulted and worked closely with, what are some of the most important things, and especially the things that people get wrong a lot of the time?
That's a great question. And in some cases, I kind of get why people kind of fall into these traps, if you will, because technology is amazing and we can do anything we want, right? We have that kind of ability now, but if you want to do it right, it has to start with what is your digital strategy. I talked about this just a few minutes ago, that we're becoming more and more digital organizations. We're in a digital economy. Data and the digitization of data and digitization of interactions is going to be key. What is your organization's digital strategy, so we can align the use of technology overall and AI specifically to help meet those outcomes? And then that will start to define, in my experience, that starts to define the need for enterprise service management. Why do we need this holistic workflow? Why do we, and who do we need to have involved when we're interacting in a digital world? Got to have it, right? We can build the best front, end user facing websites and great portals and all of those kind of things. But if we don't have the back end plumbing put together, kind of falls flat on our face. And you know what? Digital gives us the ability, and I've said this for a long time, digitization, digital technologies give us the ability to screw up at the speed of light. It happens, right? So we've got to get it right. So what's our strategy? What's our approach? Those kind of things. My second tip is think business outcomes, business value first. That we can do anything we want to do. I just mentioned that we can do anything we want to do. We have technology. What are we trying to achieve? So now here's the strategy. Now, what are the outcomes that we want, and how do we determine that we're getting value? Is it clicks on the website? Is it conversion of those clicks into sales? What is it? So we have to think about what are the business outcomes, what are the business values that we're trying to drive out. And then tip number 3, I guess, would be don't expect to do all this at once, right? It is not a magic wand. It's not a big bang, if you will. So what I would suggest is you got to get this, Cotter called this the guiding coalition, right? When he talked about leading change a few years ago, and start out with some well-defined and understood value streams in the organization. Get those small wins. Why do I say that? One, your likelihood for success is improved because it's a smaller unit. 2, you learn by doing in this, right? And other people get to experience that learning and the success at the same time. And so you can apply that learning as you move it forward. And then eventually you can start to move this across the organization. But, start with a small business challenge, start with a well understood value stream, and work toward that and start to enable your enterprise service management capabilities. And then, okay, I'm an IT guy, and it almost pains me to say this, but I think this is key. Don't make it an IT project. This is a business project. This is an organizational initiative. IT needs to be on the team, absolutely. IT needs to be there to consult. Here's what's capable. Here's what's coming. Here's what we can take advantage of now, but don't lead this, right? This is about the enterprise, not about just IT. And so that's the tip. Make it. IT shouldn't lead these things. These should be business initiatives, much like new product development, R&D. They're all business initiatives. So that's my 4th tip. The IT shouldn't lead these things.
Got it. And I think it would behoove the IT leader to basically get partners on board, their counterparts as partners, and rally everyone behind this. So everyone needs to feel a sense of ownership in order to drive this. And if it becomes an IT project, then I think the business would, just like the IT organization, the business is also fighting fires in their own ways, and they have other priorities. And for this to become a priority, I think you're right. It has to come from top down, and the alignment has to be there, and basically it has to be a business effort or a business initiative. That's great, and I like the part about small wins and quick wins, because one, they help you, basically run low stakes experiments and learn before you take the big swings. But it also helps you win trust of the organization, right?
Absolutely.
That's great. And we're at the 30-minute mark, Doug. Let's dive into some of the questions. I'll pick the first one that's coming from perhaps an HR manager's perspective based on how it's framed. And you've been an IT leader, and this person wants to understand, what an HR manager should know about ESM, and how can they effectively collaborate with their IT counterparts.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a couple things come to mind. One, understanding, that there is the right balance between specialization, right? So the HR function provides some very valuable kinds of outcomes and manages, some very important data for us. So those things don't go away, right? But it's also the data that other parts of the organization needs to ensure that we're providing the level of service and the level of enablement. I'm going to use the word enablement for folks that work for us, right? And so HR is key here, right? And it's very hard. So understanding, and I use the word value chain. I used that term a little bit earlier, and a value stream or value chain. Let me be clear. Value stream are steps that the organization takes to deliver value to someone, right? And so some of those value streams involve other parts of the organization. So we'll use the classic one. You onboard a new employee. HR by itself cannot do that. Neither can IT. Neither can the facilities department. Neither can corporate security. You tell me what's going on within your organization. And so that's how you want to approach your not only your IT partners, but your other partners within this. What is the flow of work? What do each of us contribute? Where do I need to go and do my little individual things like setting up, salary information and benefits and those kind of, but that fits into the broader picture too, because IT needs to know the name of the person so they can generate a user ID that uniquely identifies them. Security needs to know who they are and what their role is. Facilities need to know, hey, where they're going to sit in the office. So that's maybe a bit of a longer-winded answer, but that's what comes to mind. Hopefully that helped.
It does. Sure, it brings some clarity to to the HR perspective, and like provides the IT perspective. The next question is about the ROI, right? Uh, of course, ESM, would help you demonstrate ROI in tangible and intangible ways. So the tangibles would be, direct time saving, productivity, cost benefits, and so forth, and breaking down silos so that the user experience is better. And the intangible would be the second degree, benefits of business growth, essentially, when like all the employees and end users are able to perhaps access support and service management at one place. With Gen AI, that's possible. You mentioned Slack. It's something that we also do, like basically, instead of making the end user go to portals, a different portal for IT, another portal for HR, we have an AI assistant that lives within Slack or Microsoft Teams, depending on what the organization uses for internal communication and collaboration. And this essentially, and the AI assistant extends beyond just reporting an issue or asking for a service, right? Like a quick question that you have that might not be worth an IT agent's time, or you perhaps don't even know who to ask. You can, drop the question to the AI assistant. So let's say you just joined a company and you need a demo of the product, and you're too clueless to know who to even ask that kind of thing, right? Or something more extreme. You can trust this AI assistant to just quickly give you the answer and just like get on with your work, right? So uh, we understand that there's going to be some ROI, and there would be some intangible ROI as well. How would you, as an IT leader, how would you make a business case to rally your counterparts from other business functions uh,
Yeah, yeah,
initiative?
and I get it, right? That's a great question. That's always the key here, and it starts with understanding what is the organization trying to achieve, right? I mean, to your point, it's very difficult to understand or measure, perhaps, the non-tangible benefit. I mean, you mentioned one right there. In the current state, right? and if I'm a new employee, you almost have to know what you're asking before you ask it. So certainly there's going to be benefit because I can become more productive as a new employee. I can onboard and at least be able to navigate the organization, which, there's value to that. Absolutely. How do I measure that? Hard to say. So it really comes back to, and this is the tried and true. If I look at the strategy of the organization, mission, vision, goals, objectives, and then I try to map in what can enterprise service management bring to this, right? How can it help the organization meet its goals? That's half the battle, because when organizations define goals and objectives, they're defining measurement targets. That's half the battle. And if we understand the measurement target, now we just need to map it into, okay, what do we want to achieve? So that's how I try to attack it. And it seems to work. It seems to work. But it takes a little work, right? And I can't do this in a vacuum. I have to involve colleagues from across the organization. Again, it cannot be just an IT thing. So hopefully that helps.
It does. It does. And someone has asked a question about the major challenges, but like it's more about end users and getting the company aligned, so to speak. So I'm going to paraphrase the question and just selfishly ask you a question that's been that I've been grappling with. Is, let's say you launch some sort of an initiative or a new technology, right? How do you go about change managing, especially in a large organization where culture plays a very important role, and from a digital transformation perspective as well, right? It's very hard to change the DNA of a company that's existed for a long time across multiple teams and thousands of employees. How do you go about rolling something out and change managing it, basically?
Next question. No, I'm kidding. It's a great question, and it's one that many organizations have to, grapple with. I get it, and I've got a couple of answers that I would share. One, there is no getting around it. We've got to communicate, right? We have to put together a very good communication plan, and that doesn't mean just send out a corporate announcement via email, right? We have to communicate. We have to put on your I call it bring out your inner marketer, because you've got to market this thing, and the message you're going to send to senior executives is going to be different than what you're going to send to associates that are doing the day-to-day activity, right? But there's benefit for both groups. So we have to think of, when you're marketing something, you have to think about what is the benefit for this organization? What is the benefit for these people? So that's number one. Number two, it has to be intuitive. It just absolutely has to make sense. In this day and age, right, there is no excuse, in my opinion, for not making things so intuitive that that just seems to be the right way of doing things. And if you can start to demonstrate that it's intuitive, this just works, people become comfortable with the change. Part of the challenge, and we're human, right? We humans, myself included, have an innate fear of the unknown. We don't know what's coming. We don't know how it's going to attack us. We don't know how it's going to impact us, is what I meant to say, not attack us. But impact us. Again, it's come back to communication. Here's what we're anticipating. Here's the benefit. We have to answer the what's in it for you, right? And if we're not doing those things, organizations, I get it. They've evolved over time. We're not going to turn them immediately, but we have to be constant and vigilant in marketing what it is that we're doing, answering that question, and making it intuitive for people to consume and adopt and take advantage of what we're doing.
I love that. And as an IT support person turned marketer myself, I understand, how you could get lost in the technology aspect of it, and get tunnel vision and just talk about how awesome something is. But you need to think like a marketer when you're articulating the benefits and the benefits, like you said, might be different for executives versus people who are on the front line and doing the day-to-day work. And you need to think about the user experience as well. It has to be
Absolutely.
intuitive. uh, it needs to almost be like, hey, how come we haven't always been doing it this way, right? It has to make so much sense that it's a no-brainer for end users to adopt it. That's great.
Yeah.
We just have a couple of minutes to go. And I know you write a lot, Doug, and there are some other questions that are related to the concepts we've already covered. In case someone has an additional question and might want to reach out to you, or in case someone wants to uh, consume the content that you've been publishing and learn more from you directly or through your work, how do they reach out to you?
I have a very difficult to remember website. It's the very creatively named DougTedder.com. So, so I post blogs out there frequently, and I'll chime in on LinkedIn now and again and those kind of things. But yeah, DougTedder.com is probably the most direct way of catching up or connecting with me. Hopefully it kind of works. If remember, my name is Doug Tedder. Oh, hey, .com, and that must be the website. So.
Great, awesome. Thanks, Doug. This has been really insightful for everyone who joined in. Perhaps if you join in late, you'll be able to access the entire session recording on the same link. And for people who are not able to join in, of course, we'll share the recording with them. And this has been great, Doug. Like I learned a lot of new things, and I'm sure so did our audience. Thanks for your time, and thanks for sharing your learnings.
Oh, it's been great, Sajeesh. Thank you for asking me to participate. I've had a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.